Hey YouTubers, the Utopian here. Just wanted to give you a quick answer to the last historical trivia question. I'm here smoking my $20 basket pipe with some Orlick Golden Sliced. Good smoke, but not overall my favorite because it does have a little bit of a nicotine hit to it, or at least I think so. Anyway, back to the history question. Which is quicker or which is faster? Cavalry or infantry? And of course we're talking in the 1800s, in the 19th century. Before the army was mechanized as far as transportation is concerned. One would think that cavalry would be faster, a horse is faster than someone on foot, of course. But actually, over a long march, it was the infantry that was faster. The Army made several studies during the 1870s, 1880s, probably up into the 1890s, sending a column of infantry and a troop of cavalry from point A to point B, sending them out at the same time, see who would get there first. And on a prolonged march, almost always, usually by the third day, the infantry would be ahead of the cavalry. Why? Didn't have to care for the horses. They didn't have to search out a water hole for the horses. Their water is what they carried with them. And of course, troopers carried water with them too, but not enough for the horse. So every night you had to start looking early to set up camp to find a source of water. And those horses had to be fed before the soldiers were fed. And then in the morning, the same thing. The horses had to be watered and fed before the soldiers. So it took time. So, infantry was faster. And that was a bit to the chagrin of the Army, really. Because historically, cavalry is your reconnaissance. It should be the fastest unit in the Army. But with infantry, the infantry carried their rifle, a pack, and a shelter half, a small piece of canvas, and your partner, your bunkie, would have another piece of canvas, and the two of you at night would put those up in a quick tent. They were small, and lace them together. Each had a piece of canvas, and put the two of them together and sleep two men. Hopefully you were short, or your feet stuck out and got cold. Cavalry usually, when they made a semi-permanent camp, they would set up a large tent that hold 4 people, or at least 2, comfortably. Those had to be transported by wagons, so the wagon had to follow, and that would have been slower than the horses themselves. You if it was good weather, they could just sleep out on the ground. But basically, the infantry was faster. But most of you got that answer, but I'd rather ride than have to walk. But I can see the cavalry is more romantic of the two. Another little aside, Indians were more afraid of infantry than they were cavalry. You get into battle with Indians, of course there's no set discipline like you would have in the American military. Dismount, form ranks, this and that and the other. And the cavalry, you'd form a skirmish line. Every fourth man would be a horse holder. You'd have to hold 4 horses. And the other 3 would dismount and enter the skirmish line. The Indians would just, anywhere they saw an opportunity, they were on you. But the infantry, you have to remember they carried the long guns. 45-70, yes, but an infantry rifle could shoot a lot further than accurately than a cavalry carbine, even though they were the same gun. And a good column of infantry could really do some damage once they got up to you. So the Indians shied away from them. But in the Indian Wars, you had to have the cavalry to cover long distances, really. Although the infantry was faster, the cavalry historically was the reconnaissance arm of the army. It was to go out and find who was where and how many were there. The days of the big cavalry charge were that idea is really kind of overblown, because like I said, you had to dismount from your horse to shoot, form a skirmish line. It's difficult to shoot from a horse a lot of times, especially in a battle, and Indians could take advantage of that. And once you were down, if you weren't with some other soldiers, if you were out away from anybody else, you're in a real vulnerable spot. So anyway, the answer was the infantry. Most of you got that right. Although, Daniel, sure, I do agree that I'd rather be on horseback than on foot any day. But for a long campaign, it was it was the infantry that was actually faster. One of life's little mysteries. Anyway, I'll not hold you up any longer. I don't have another question for you right today, but I'll be back in a day or two with one. And this is the Utopian. See you down the road.